Here we go.
So I've started to disagree with the Glazers out, same as I started to disagree with the Kroenkes out movements, and that's because I think it's a scapegoat. Because from what I've seen, the Glazers aren't terrible. I mean, there are terrible things about them, and you can name a lot of things, right? But they are clearly trying to get this. Like they're giving the club the tools, even though they don't give a fuck about the club. They say they give you the most amount of money. Oli had the most amount of money in the time that he was manager out of any other manager in the league, right? He spent the most. So clearly they backed him. That's the first thing. So clearly they're backing the manager, right? But also they've gone out of their way to find top managers. When they brought in Louis van Gaal, he was a catch, even though he didn't work out, and it was actually a terrible match. Netherlands at the World Cup were great. They were fantastic. And that was a good signing. That was a good managerial signing. It was an exciting signing as well. Then they got Jose Mourinho. And that wasn't like Jose Mourinho now, his stock has fallen quite a bit. But like the season before, they signed Jose Mourinho, he won the Premier League. So that was a huge signing. Like clearly they're trying to do the right. I think Ed Woodward probably is a bigger culprit more than the Glazers, because Ed Woodward is the one who gives managers 3-year contracts and then sacks them 6 months later. It's happened 3 times now. Or just overpays for players. And I know he's involved heavily in negotiation for players. That's why the Sancho deal took so long to pass, and that's also why players like I mean, we've already shouted him already, but Fred is heavily overpaid for. Maguire is heavily overpaid for.
Can I just say?
So, yeah.
The Glazers are responsible for every single thing that happens at Manchester United. They are the owners. Nothing happens at Manchester United without the Glazers. But the Glazers are responsible for Ed Woodward being in a job. The Glazers are responsible for signing off on Harry Maguire going for 80 million. The Glazers are responsible for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting a 3-year contract the first time around, then giving him another 3-year contract the second time around. The Glazers are responsible for not buying Jadon Sancho 2 years ago, not Ed Woodward. Alvarin Glazer was the one that tried to go in and restructure the deal and say, we'll pay you 75 million now and 20 million next season or whatever. That's the reason the Jadon Sancho deal fell apart. The Glazers are responsible for how the club is run. The Glazers are responsible for imploring Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna onto Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Those aren't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's coaches. I mean, I don't even know who. He didn't. They were there during Jose Mourinho. The Glazers didn't want to fire them and have to pay them off.
That's basically what just happened now. They only sacked Ole.
Yes, they only sacked Ole, but I think I haven't read anything else, but I think they will eventually pay off McKenna, pay off Carrick, which is going to cost essentially 14 million. If you sack Ole, pay him 7.5, McKenna, Phelan, it's going to cost around 40 million or 30 million. Sure. And then, so it's going to cost them money, but the Glazers are responsible. That's just the amounts that
they're really their contracts, because when Wenger was sacked, it cost the club 17 million for him and his coaching staff.
Well, Ole was given
more than twice.
Ole was given 7.5, and I don't know the details of Carrick, McKenna, and Phelan, but I would also assume it's a lot more than just Carrick, McKenna, and Phelan. There's maybe a few more others that need to go as well.
There's probably like a line out, like a corner coach and like
100%.
a throw-in coach and like a kick man or something.
Definitely. And I mean, the Glazers are responsible for not maintaining Old Trafford. It's at this point it's a monument.
Old Trafford's a dumb.
It's a
monument. I saw a video the other day of like rats, like a shitload of rats running out of the bathroom.
Like, dude, it's a national monument. I mean, England played there during World War III when they were rebuilding Wembley. Okay, that's how much of an iconic stadium Old Trafford is, and yet you haven't touched it since 2005 when you bought the club. You bought the club on debt that was like, I don't know, like 300 million or 400 million in debt. The club's debt hasn't gone down, it's actually gone up. And every year you see the Glazers take money out the club. You see dividends taken out. You see 30 million, 40 million, 50 million taken out the club. But then when the club, who would make you a lot more money if you invested that money into the club essentially, because shares would go up, prices, stock would go up, you then decide, no, it's fine, I'll take my 40 million now and I'll take 40 million next year, instead of investing that into a new midfielder, a new CDM that we could easily buy with a Ruben Neves or Declan Rice or somebody that would help you win football games, which would essentially increase your stock price, which would essentially make you way more money. It's all to do with the Glazers. The Glazers, don't get me wrong, I've just given them credit for appointing Rolf Rangnick. But honestly, I put nothing past them for anything else. They are the slimiest bunch of pricks you'll ever come across. And the same goes for your owners. Your owners as well. Yes, they've invested money in the club.
I've changed my opinion on my owners. Like I'm starting to see the Kroenkes differently because the last transfer window went really well. But also Josh Kroenke's been doing a lot of interviews, and I mean he's obviously highly trained in how he presents the media. He knows how to sway the media, sway the fans. He's a great speaker. He's a great public speaker. But it sort of helps me see the vision of the Kroenkes a bit better because, like, so according to Josh Kroenke, right, who's the owner's son, the reason why the Kroenkes weren't investing was because they weren't full owners of the club up until 2017. Since 2017, they spent 70 million on Nicola Pepe, who was actually way overpaid for. But also that deal was overpaid for because someone in the club, what was his name? Raul Sanelli, right? He was in charge of transfers. He got fired because of corruption. So that deal was overpaid because he received some sort of commission on the deal. And after that, we spent the most money in Europe the last transfer window. We've been spending money, and the club, they've been investing in the club, and they do have a vision now for the club. And they said that since they've only become majority, all complete owners of the club since 2017. Before that, I think they were, I don't know if they had more than 50%, but the current Everton owner and them, I can't remember what the guy's name is, were the two majority owners, and that guy wanted to invest constantly, but the Kroenkes constantly vetoed his will to invest, which is why the fans are so angry at the Kroenkes all the time. But they were just trying to play politics so that guy could sell his shares to the Kroenkes, which is actually terrible for the club because Wenger needed investment. He deserved it after keeping the club profitable all those years when you're paying off the stadium and keeping us in Europe all those years with the shittest players. He deserved some investment in his last few years, but they refused to do it. But I mean, so like, there's a lot you can hate about the Kroenkes, but I think going forward, I think there will be good owners because they've treated the other sports clubs incredibly well. Their footballing, the NFL team is they just built, I think, the most expensive stadium in the entire of the US, if I remember correctly. And I don't know much about why it was so expensive, but it cost them over $1 billion to build. Question. And that's something they paid for, not the club. So they do invest heavily in their sports teams, and I do think that Arsenal are now going to start to experience some of the benefits of being owned by a multi-billion dollar family like the Kroenkes. Finally start to experience that.
That's
benefit.
Fair. Okay, that's a fair point. You're making some good points here. But do you not think it's just a ploy because of what happened with the Super League? Do you not think it's what happened?
Oh yes,
with
that's
the
the
Super
other
League?
thing, right? The reason why they weren't investing was because they were expecting a huge amount of money to come to the club from the Super League. And the Super League fell through, so they realized, okay, well, fuck.
But that's bad business.
Not going to happen anytime soon.
That's bad ownership. I'm sorry.
It is bad ownership.
Because it just shows how much of a snake you really are, that you're like, oh, we won't invest right now.
We don't have to spend money now because we're getting all this money coming in 18 months. And then all the world's best players are going to want to come to us for a cut price anyway because they want to play in the Super League. So why would we spend so much money on them now?
That is not great, dude.
I mean, it is slimy, I agree. But
it's the same thing with the Glazers, though. The Glazers only went and bought Sancho, only went and bought Varane, only went and bought Ronaldo because they knew if they don't invest in this team this summer, the fans are going to go apeshit. Because essentially what was happening before they went and did all that, before they gifted us all these amazing players, we were like, we are not going to any games. None of the fans were like, fuck you, fuck your games. I mean, last season they held up a Liverpool versus United game that was postponed, and then essentially the club was fined because the game wasn't hosted. Because
I forgot about that.
The fans were like, we're not having this shit. We want you out. And the thing is, the fans could have continued to do that.
Big deal.
Exactly. The fans could have continued to do that. And it was the saving grace. It was the end of the season when this all took place that it allowed the Glazers to say, okay, listen, summer, we're actually going to invest. We're actually going to show these guys that What we want is to have a winning club to appease the fans. But I think it's just a ploy. And to be honest, I would rather trust somebody else. Once bitten, twice shy. That's how I feel.
I mean, I wanted Daniel Ek from Spotify.
He would be brilliant because he's an Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
he's an Arsenal fan, dude.
And
he would be a Roman Abramovich. All he would want to do is
he's not as rich as them. That's the thing. Like, to me, I was scared about him. Like, I was more comfortable with the Kroenkes because the Kroenkes are worth 4 times what he is worth, and he was going to pay $2 billion for the club, but he's only worth $2 billion, so he was going to pay everything he has. Basically.
The thing is, though, Shahid, like, he would pay $2 billion to own Arsenal, but you know that he will employ every single cent that he has into trying to make that club as great as what you, a fan, would want that club to be, versus the Kroenkes, who are 4 times richer than him, but put 4 times less the amount of money that the club deserves. I would take a man who's half the amount or half the value of the Glazers to own United, and I, as long as I can see that my owner's doing everything he can, that's all that I want. Because all I know
is that the case at
Leicester City.
The only clubs that have owners heavily investing
Leicester City,
the owners that are
Chelsea,
super wealthy.
No, Leicester City.
Chelsea owners super. Leicester City owners super wealthy. More
dude,
wealthier than Daniel Ek.
The Glazers are worth more than Leicester City's owner.
Let me actually check this up while we're chatting.
But
I'm actually interested to
Aston Villa,
I know
Everton,
they're also like heavily corrupt people.
All these teams have major owners who are quite happy to invest as much as what they're allowed to because financial fair play comes into it. But essentially, I mean, also Newcastle United, for those of you who are screaming at the screen, but Newcastle United as well. Major owners who want their team to do well. Manchester City, of course. So, I don't know.
Well, Newcastle just got that.
Yeah, they did. But you can see already the amount of money that they're putting into the club. There's talks of a new training ground, talks of upgrades at their stadium. I forget their stadium's name. But there's talks of upgrading and implying money where financial fair play actually can't get to them. So they want to improve their youth system. They want to improve their recruitment system. They
basically do what Man City did.
Exactly. They will add money to the club.
But also they're a country. Like the owners, they're backed by a country.
That's fine. And I agree with that. It's kind of unfair. But their owners bought them with the intention of, we want to improve this club from the ground up. Their owners aren't just backing them on the transfer market where all the fans can be like, oh yeah, could you see the player that we've got? Their owners are behind the scenes pouring money into the club. Whereas United's owners are pouring money into things that the fans can only see. They're not renovating Old Trafford, which is in need of a renovation. They're not developing youth systems. They're not nothing. And that's why I think Wolf Rangnick essentially will come in and set the record straight. So yeah.
Okay, so I have looked this up, right?
Yeah.
So the Leicester City owner, the guy who owns King Power, I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name. It's Vichai. It's his surname, super long, right? But he's worth $5 billion. Whereas the Glazer family. So I googled Malcolm Glazer, but he's dead. I didn't know that.
It's Alvaro and Glazer, and Joel Glazer. Those are like the two main ones.
So I just googled Glazer family network, and it came up as $3.1 billion. But that sounds low to me. Surely.
United is worth more than that.
Alvaro Glazer.
The United as a whole is worth more than 3-point-some-odd billion.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, dude.
What's the other guy's name?
Joel Glazer. And also keep in mind, they own NFL teams. The Glazers and the Kroenkes both own NFL teams and NBA teams. I mean, the Kroenkes own the Denver Nuggets. The Alvaro and Glazer and the boys, they own the Buccaneers. They own multiple franchises.
So this isn't recent, it's 2015, but according to Forbes, on the website, the Glazer family as a whole in 2015 is worth 4.7 billion. So I mean, that isn't even richer than Kroenke. Neither is the Leicester City owner richer than Kroenke. But they are both richer than Daniel Ek.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when Daniel Ek wanted to buy Arsenal, he was prepared to, but what, 2 billion? But Arsenal are worth, I think, Arsenal are worth like 2.5 or maybe 3 billion.
Yeah,
I
I
know
think it was underbidding.
No, Arsenal are worth more than that.
Actually, so Stan Kroenke himself is worth 10.7 billion US dollars as of this year.
Jeez,
right? His wife is worth 9.1 billion US dollars. Together, they're worth 19 billion dollars or more, 20 billion dollars.
What does his wife do? Is she like a porn star or what?
No, dude, she's the heir to Walmart.
Gee.
He doesn't come from money. She comes from money. He married her, and then her family like gave him a start. And then he made some smart investments outside of the family.
Jesus, okay.
And he grew his own wealth, like separate to his wife's family's wealth. But she's the heir to Walmart.
My God.
No, he's richer than her. I didn't even know that.
Dude, that's crazy.
So I mean, like, Daniel cannot compete with the Kroenkes, and I'm willing to bet my money on the Kroenkes for now.
I don't know, dude. Like, I'm still Glazers out. I mean, you're welcome to be Kroenkes in. I mean, I think it'll do more damage, but
I understand being Glazers out because you're only like a quarter of my Arsenal owners' net worth.
Fuck off.
You know, like small club things. But,
fuck off. My team is worth more than yours.
Actually, let me see who Tottenham's owners are. How much they're worth.
Google how much United is worth. I'm sure United is worth like 4 billion. At least 4 billion.
Yeah. I hate when clubs are owned by a person, but he's like masquerading as a company. Like Man City's masquerading as Man City Football Group. Now I must go through this whole process of finding out how much
it's
Man
like,
City Football Group is.
It's like Newcastle's new owners. It's like, oh yeah, they're the Saudi company. No, they're not. Tell me the name. The Saudi company. Fuck the Saudi company. Tell me the name. Oh, dude.
Fuck this. I can't find. So Tottenham is owned by a few people. Daniel Levy, who I actually just thought was the chairman, is actually the 30% owner of the club.
My God, Levy.
So he's more than the chairman.
So he's more than just being a stingy cunt because he's spending his own fucking money too. He's like, no. I don't do that. Fuck you.
Also, that means like if he sold Harry Kane, he's getting 30% of that.
So if he sells Harry Kane for 200 million, he's getting like what, 60 million?
I mean, they won't get that anymore, but he could have. I think his asking price was 150, and City were prepared to pay 120 or something like that. Yeah, and he was willing to compromise. Yeah,
because I still remember he came out with like an interview and he said, "I will say yes to Harry Kane's transfer as long as it starts with a 2." I was like, well, fuck. So
yeah, he wanted 20, bro. He knew this guy was about to start.
At the moment, he's worth about 20. I wouldn't pay more
20,
than
25.
Harry
That's a good price. Yeah.